Yo, Zane. How's things, bro?
We're back. I'm good, man.
Gosh, yeah, the TikTok ban all of what, 12 hours was it?
It was like a few hours early, then it came back up 12 hours later. I've heard mixed things. Some people think it was kind of a little bit of a PR stunt. I'm just glad we're back.
Boy, I always, and I think yourself was similar in terms of knew it was going to happen, that would kind of be continuing as business as usual. But like I say, I just think knowing the person that Trump is, everything that he wants to have the big hurrah moment coming in, like this is kind of my moment, kind of at the start of my like president's reign. So, but yeah, I mean, either way, we're still TikTok shop, TikTok live, so it's all going still, right?
I think like now we're at the point because we still get like questions from potential clients or just people in general. And they're like, hey, do you think it's going to be around? And like, now because we have like what, like 65, 70 days before
Yeah.
the end of the extension. No matter what the like extension length is, with Trump being like the head of the executive branch, he could keep delaying it for as long as he's president. He can just keep moving it back if he thinks it needs more time to sell
Yeah.
reasonably. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. I think if you check Polymarket, I think Polymarket's been pretty accurate during this whole thing. Just
Yeah.
like as things happen, it's been adjusting. When the Supreme Court said, no, we're not pausing the ban, we're upholding it, it went to like 90%. Then it was like, okay, it's
Mhm.
happening this weekend. It happened. Now I think it's at like 60% chance that it's going to get sold before May or something. I
Yeah.
think those numbers are pretty accurate. People are voting and putting their money where their mouth is. So I think that's pretty accurate. But I think regardless of it, if it happens by May, I don't think TikTok is gonna go away for any serious amount of length of time. I think that they're gonna figure something out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like about 10 days ago, I was looking at Polymarket like literally every hour is now over the old now because I feel like it's just kind of business as usual until like some news comes out, which hopefully, like you say, that the fact is like a Trump can keep extending it. I feel like as they will go through and like I say, it doesn't make sense for it now to all of a sudden again just like be turned off, right? Because in terms like you say, everyone's showing their hands what the situation is. So yeah, everything seems a good place. So because yeah, what you kind of like saying to brands that you're looking to on board or current clients now, you kind of just like say business as usual then from that side of things.
Yeah, and like for us, it's like as an agency, it's definitely business as usual. For new clients, I would say, hey, I think it's gonna be around in 60, 70 days. There's gonna be some brands who just it's just not in their risk profile. Some of the bigger ones are like, hey, this doesn't make sense for us unless we hit six figures, seven figures per month. And it's like we're not gonna hit that by the time this new date is coming around. There's some Fortune 500 brands like this, just it just doesn't make sense. It's not in their risk
Mhm.
profile. They'd rather, just put more money in Meta TV ads. But for mid-sized brands, it's a pretty good opportunity because like
Mm.
daily active users seems to be up. It's not back in the app store, so it's like it's kind of tough to get new users, but also there seems to be pretty easy ways around it. People are like resetting their phone, they're putting their app store to Canada, they're downloading it, they're moving it back to US. It's not that hard of a band to get around. So I
Yeah.
think we're it's pretty good for mid-sized brands. At least the big players are delayed even more. Because that's what
Mhm.
happens with every platform. Meta was nice and cheap, Amazon was nice and easy, and then the big boys start coming in. They start like throwing ridiculous amount of ad dollars. They're not even trying to be profitable on the platform. They're just
Yeah.
using it for brand awareness. They're going to make their profit like in retail. So it's like you got some
Mhm.
breathing room where it's like, okay, the big players are not going to come in. The big agencies are still not here because
Yeah.
they just can't move at this speed and take the risk. So I think for mid-sized brand, like now is a good time. We see some doing pretty well because I think there might be fewer entrants. Because November,
Mhm.
December over the holidays, there weren't any new brands coming on. When the ban was like very close in January, there weren't many new entrants. So it's like there's not a whole lot of new brands to compete with. Meanwhile, shop just continues to grow.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? And you made a good point there, and I agree with that in terms of like say with the big players holding off still, we speak to obviously like some mid kind of tier brands as well. We're kind of saying, well, look, you know that at least in 75 days, you can be ramping up if it does go. But at least if not, you're kind of prime ready for obviously going into end of Q2, Q3, Q4 before again all these big brands kind of jump on the scene. And that and say from my perspective as well, it kind of takes me back when I actually used to work at bigger agencies and just thinking like working on big brands, the amount of budget they just put for pointless stuff. Like we just used to run like awareness ads on Meta, like spending like million. I'm just like, what's the point, right? And again, it's going to be a similar kind of thing once big brands start to come to TikTok Shop. They're going to just be chucking money at it like there's no tomorrow, right? Because they've got the big budgets for it. So yeah, definitely still first mover advantage. I think right now, like I say, if you can get on the platform, wrap things up, then yeah, it's definitely a perfect time. right now from that side of things. So, and it's funny as well from that side because well, obviously we work with UK brands. It's this whole kind of TikTok being in the media as well. It's kind of like giving us a surge of like UK brands wanting to get set up as well straight away, which again has been a positive side of things as well. So it's kind of like the more media is good. Well, so I think it's kind of like shed a light in terms of opportunity on TikTok and TikTok Shop as a whole, which is positive.
Yeah, I think for other markets, it's great because they don't have the downside effect of the ban. They don't have the downside effect of it not being on the App Store. All they have is the awareness of hearing TikTok everywhere. So I think
Yeah,
TikTok Shop UK is gonna see a big benefit from it. Even some new regions like I think Germany, Mexico, other things that are developing, I think they're gonna see a big surge in interest. Yeah, like you said, there's really no bad PR as long as you come out alive.
yeah, exactly. That maybe come out alive. So with that, then, what kind of going into February? What are your thoughts in terms of like strategy wise for brands for the whole platform? What are you kind of thinking is going to be kind of like the go to for brands? Good or kind of like say already kind of ramping things up on the platform.
Yeah, so I think like some whisperings that we've seen and heard is like with health, like we're starting to see like violations come back a little bit for creators. So kind of I guess you could say conspiracy or like the thought process is like if TikTok is looking to sell part of the business, they're gonna need to show to the buyer that there's no, like, major red flags, there's no, like, major issues. It's not like they're gonna sell and the FTC is gonna come in and be like, "Hey, there were all these problems." So we could see them tighten up on health and wellness, be like, "Hey, we can't really do these weight loss products, we can't have affiliates saying these things," etcetera. So I think health and wellness, it might be a little bit difficult. In terms of strategy, I think our strategy hasn't changed too much, it's just like nothing on the platform has changed that much during this whole ban period, and I don't know how much they're gonna change when they can't update the app. They wanted to really push, like, search, so, like, the shop tab. So they're thinking that a lot of sales are gonna start coming in from people going to shop and searching for their product, which makes sense because it's like, once you get used to a platform, like, say, you use Amazon a few times, and it's like next time you want something, you're gonna go to Amazon first and search for it instead of waiting for a video to be shown. So I think that's kind of interesting. It's like maybe SEO becomes more important. We're always keeping an eye on live stream because, last episode we talked a little bit about China market and, like, how leaned in they are on live stream, how much revenue it drives there. We're still not seeing that in the US. Like I think across agency wide, we're at like maybe 13% of revenue is coming from live, but we're keeping an eye on it. Like maybe with these AI videos getting better and better, maybe TikTok sees this as like, okay, we need to move to live stream. So we're keeping an eye on that, but it doesn't seem like anything has shifted dramatically since Q4, which is a surprise because TikTok usually quarter over quarter, there's like big changes.
I think maybe because like I say this whole situation with the TikTok ban, that might be the situation for it. But yeah, I definitely agree in terms of from the health side of things as well. Like the angles that we see work well on health right now, whether it's like the storytelling, again, for some of our brands, we kind of talk about Nature's Lempic, for example, which works really well. But I feel like that's kind of stuff's going to start to get cracked down on once again, people like obviously TikTok starts to imply the kind of stuff for the health as we've seen like on Meta now, and it'll probably come to TikTok as well. So I think there's definitely going to be, whilst you can, if you're in the health category, just try and as much as possible because I feel like there will be more restrictions coming to the category. And as you probably knows, health, personal beauty are the two main categories. So again, if that starts to change within health, there's going to be ways around it. People will be smart enough to kind of figure out different angles or different concepts or whatever that looks like. So time will tell from that side of things. But yeah, it is very interesting that actually not a lot is moving from TikTok side of things. One thing I've heard, obviously, we've enrolled, fortunately, with some of the brands for Subscribe and Save, which hopefully is coming out pretty soon. I know to the general sellers, it's going to be May time. So that can obviously be a good move on the platform as well, especially because now I think a lot of brands are kind of going into this kind of like next phase of TikTok shop and kind of thinking, okay, how do we become profitable? Are we going to keep that whether losing money or can we like start to make even more profit from this? I think stuff like that and obviously conversations are starting to change as well now. So yeah, it'd be good to kind of get your kind of thoughts there in terms of the brands you work with now, which in general are all profitable, what their kind of thoughts are as well, and kind of what's the moving levers for that as well.
Yeah, it's funny how you say, like, some of the health and wellness, like Avi, that's been, like, all over Twitter, just, like, criticisms of them being, like, too aggressive, and then, like, people saying that's like evidence of like why Meta needs to tighten up. So
Mm.
I think we'll see that also follow on TikTok Shop. I think they'll have to do a lot of the stuff restrictions that Meta is doing. In terms of subscribe and save, they've said before that it was supposed to be released Q1, and we're already a month into Q1. It doesn't look like it's gonna come by the end of Q1, which is a surprise. Usually, like they move fast with
Yeah, well, it's
features.
also about, yeah, it seems to be, yeah, taking its time.
Yeah. Maybe it's something to do with, like, the payment processing behind it. I'm sure it's a little bit sensitive putting people on the rebill, but I'm excited to see that come across because I think that'll really help with some of the just, like, some of the profitability on the platform. I do think some sellers do struggle with that, where it's like, because TikTok Shop is so based on video and the content supply of video, it's not like Amazon with Amazon search rankings. Like once you hit those rankings, maybe you can chill a little bit. Maybe you don't have to spend as much on ads. At least it used to be that way. But TikTok, it's like you're still constantly sending out samples. So every month you're trying to beat out the cost of sending those samples with the profit that you're getting after ad cost, after affiliate cost, after platform fee, after agency fee, all that. It's like if I'm sending out 200, 300 samples this month, it's costing me X, maybe it's $10 each. It's costing me 3,000. And then I need to be profitable after all these rates. And we saw with like TikTok Shop, they gave us the ability to adjust the shop ads commission to help with that. It's like, okay, you're probably not going to be able to be profitable after ads if you're giving 20-25% commission. But then we're also seeing a lot of pushback on that as well, where creators are complaining like, hey, my brand, like the brand that I'm working with, they dropped it to 1%, which is kind of crazy. I don't think any brand should be doing that. But like I think that's like a change that maybe could have been better thought through. Like maybe they should have allowed the creator to approve the shop ads commission change. Like, okay, you're gonna get 10% only from revenue coming through ads. If you're not cool with that, that's fine. We can just turn off authorization for this brand, and then you'll only get sales through organic. You won't be run as an ad. Because they didn't do those disclosures, they didn't give that option. Now it's like creators are getting kind of pissed, and then sellers are kind of getting kind of pissed. They're like, why am I getting blown up by this affiliate for a 5% commission rate when I drove that sale? And so things like that. And I think attribution is also an issue because a lot of the creators are going to be like, well, my organic sales just happened to drop as soon as you turned on this paid thing, and now I'm getting lower commissions. So it's kind of a mess. So hopefully, subscribe and saves is a little bit cleaner, and there's fewer second order issues that they didn't really think through.
Yeah, and that's big. And I want to ask you a question on that as well. You made a good point there. What are your thoughts in terms of like the organic side versus the paid side? So again, you get a lot of affiliates saying, "No, don't run paid on my content until the organic kind of stops." Do you believe that? What's your thoughts on that as well? Because some people think that's the case, some people don't. Where do you kind of stand with that?
Yeah, I knew we had one brand where the video started popping off organically and it was already entered into ACA. So I don't know how much it was spending on GMV Max because it doesn't tell you by creative, but it was doing a crazy amount of sales organically. And then we just kept running out of spend on GMV Max because GMV Max was set pretty high. It was at a 4 ROI target and the budget was 150 a day. By 10, 11 a.m., it had spent through the whole 150 and the video was still going off organically. So I don't think it's true where if you're putting ad spend behind it, suddenly you're not going to get any organic reach. I don't think that's true, but I could see how creators like every little thing is something that you're a little bit paranoid about because this platform can be so unstable. It's like one month you're doing great, next month you're not. As a human, you're trying to find some explanation for it. It can't just be like it's hard to rationalize just like keep doing the same thing and it's just like a bad month. So people are always looking for like, okay, what changed? And they're like, oh, last month, they didn't have the shop ads commission feature. Nobody was really running as ads. It was just doing organic. This month, a lot of my brands have turned it on. Like that might be the reason. And
Mm.
potentially it could be because TikTok's not going to communicate that with us. But like with that one brand and like I think a couple others, I think we found that like it's probably not true, so we're not too concerned about it. But if like a creator's like, hey, I'm going to turn off ACA and I'm not going to give you the Spark code until like it's already gone off organically, like that's fine. That's their prerogative.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's right. And I think the thing as well, like say with TikTok Shop, there's always going to be a lot of conspiracy theories, right? Because again, like you mentioned as well, TikTok doesn't really feed back to whether it's agencies, sellers, or affiliates, what's kind of happening. It's kind of like everyone has to figure out themselves. So again, everyone comes up with their own theories, everyone comes up with their own ideas, but then TikTok never confirms or denies that as well, which makes it a fun scenario for everyone involved as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like it's definitely like an issue, but also every platform like Meta is always making changes in the background. They're probably not gonna tell you. They don't want anyone to like game it. But yeah, it's always gonna be a thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic that side. So sticking with creators, affiliates, there's a lot of chatter right now in terms of creator groups. We know a lot of them friends with some of these owners and creator groups. First of all, what's your take on the groups and what do you think in general for them helping to scale brands, the whole mechanism for it? And yeah, what's your thought process on that all?
Yeah, definitely. So there's this category of agency called TAP, and they primarily provide creators for brands. Some of these groups aren't even necessarily like TAP, they're not registered, but that's basically their function. It's like a group, usually like a Discord group of creators, and then brands can come to these creators and get help promoting their brand. Or sometimes it's just creators in a group and they're discussing what works on TikTok Shop. Recently, we've seen an example where the creator was like, "Hey, I'm going to start doing these calls for people in the group or outside the group, and they're going to be free calls." I think mentioned a couple things about like, okay, maybe I'll take it to paid calls. Maybe I'll make a group and it'll be like 1 million plus lifetime GMV and we won't take a cut and we won't be like a middleman. So like kind of hinting that like the groups that they were a part of were basically a middleman and like maybe they'll make their own led to that creator getting removed from the group. So it's definitely an interesting topic because I think like there's a lot of value for those groups. It's just like TikTok Shop is so new, social selling is so new that like if you can join a group and pay a very reasonable amount of money. Some of them are just like, $30 to $50 per month. And then you're surrounded by creators. You have a community where you can ask questions and you can like learn. Sometimes they have courses. I think that makes sense. It's like you have that community, you're learning a lot from it. You're probably going to make a good ROI off of that 30 per month or $50 per month if you actually really go for it. Some of them have like a lifetime membership. That might be a little bit trickier if it's like a few thousand and you're just trying to figure things out. I definitely think there's a room for those groups. And I don't really necessarily think that like the owners are like middlemen or they're just like taking a cut because there's also a lot of work that goes to like organizing those
Mm,
groups, making sure that people are getting an R from them, making sure the training is there. Plus, a lot of work is just like connecting brands to those creators. Because at the end of the day, it's like if you're a creator, you probably just want to focus on creating. You probably just want to focus on making your videos. You probably don't want to deal with the whole business end. There's some people that are passionate about both of those things. Maybe like the Kardashians would be a good example. Like they're they really love the business and they also really love fashion and media and things like that. I think a lot of creators probably aren't in that boat where they don't want to be sitting there negotiating with a brand, reading contracts, that kind of thing, which is why there's always been a traditional, like, agency model, like, you go to LA and you're, like, a great actress or comedian or whatever, you probably have an agent that's gonna connect you with deals and is gonna do that whole business side, make sure you don't get screwed. They're gonna take 10%, but you're not gonna care because 'cause they're landing you, like, multi-million dollar contracts and crazy movies that you don't have to network and do all these things for. So there's definitely, I think, a model where, like, these groups can provide a lot of value. They know which brands are serious. Like, anytime we work with a creator group, a lot of times they're like almost interviewing us. They want to know about the brand. They want to know about the inventory. They want to know who's behind it. If it doesn't have enough orders or reviews, they might be like, "Hey, we're not interested right now." If it seems like a violation magnet, they might be like, "Hey, it's not something that we want to work with." So they're kind of vetting it for creators. They're even vetting, the brand owner. Like if they've worked with that brand owner before and they were slow to pay invoices or like whatever, difficult to work with, really demanding about like the creators having to do certain things, they probably won't work with that brand again. So like I definitely think creators are benefiting from those owners and that deal flow that's coming through the group, but there's always going to be instances where creators like, "Hey, I think I'm getting kind of hosed here." Like I think, creators are the lifeblood of TikTok Shop. Like, "Hey, we are the ones that are actually making the content and doing most of the work." Doesn't feel like we are getting the the compensation that we deserve. I think a lot of the creator groups I work with, it's like they definitely are providing some value.
yeah. And that's the thing, right? I feel like the value is definitely there. And I think at least finding whether it's one or multiple of these groups is definitely worth the investment. And again, because I feel like as the platform continues to get more mature, there's obviously going to be more people wanting to become creators, become affiliates, right? Because obviously you can make good money from it, right? But again, some people don't understand what it takes to obviously create good content, right? You and me both probably know in terms of when we look at like sample requests coming through and obviously just review some of the videos of some creators, right? They don't get the lighting right, or they don't even pronounce the brand name right, or they're just unboxing stuff like that. So again, imagine all these people were actually put through a course, which again, this is why, and I think to some degree, maybe TikTok are starting to work with some of these kind of groups as well, because that training is probably needed. Because again, like say, affiliates are the lifeblood of everything, right? So again, obviously, if there's better affiliates on the platform, then again, it makes the whole ecosystem work a lot better, a lot more effective for each party. So I do think now we are going to probably see a wave of more and more of these groups coming up. So again, I feel like it's just from a brand perspective of brand listeners and looking to kind of invest into that, figuring out which are the right kind of ones to go into, because you don't want to, like, when we spend X amount of thousands in terms of like investing like for these taps slash these Discord groups to kind of push your brand, you want to obviously hopefully get something from it as well at the same time. So again, I think it's just trying to figure out what makes sense, sticking with obviously who's getting the results as well. Sometimes you might speak to some of these brands, they might have a case study, but that case study might be based on obviously there was part of maybe more of these groups kind of doing the same kind of thing for one brand as well, right? So I think it's definitely an interesting part right now, and I think it's going to continue from that side of things. But from your perspective, like obviously working with some of these and the trend brands listening, what do you kind of see from like an ROI perspective slash working with these in terms of whether it's just like awareness, ROI, and how that kind of all looks from that side of things?
Yeah, I think if you have the budget for it, it's a great move at the beginning because when you have 0 orders, 0 reviews, and you're trying to get commission-only affiliates, it's gonna be tough. If you can get one of these groups to be like, "Okay, I think this has a chance of driving some GMV where we get the upside of, like, getting a percentage of that GMV." If you can convince them to work with you, I think even like a 1.0 ROI, like you spend 5 grand on creators, 10 grand on creators, and you get 5, 10 grand back, that's still great because, like, you then have all those orders and those reviews and like those angles that have worked a lot easier to grow versus like trying to start from 0 with commission only. So I think it makes a lot of sense in the beginning, and then it also makes a lot of sense like kind of in the end phase. If you're doing like 1 million a month on TikTok Shop, even if it's like, a lot of these brands are doing like maybe 10% margins after everything's said and done. You're making 100K EBITDA per month on TikTok Shop. It makes sense for you to take 20 to 50% of that and start putting it to creator groups just to make sure that you maintain that momentum. So we have like some clients where they're doing so well on TikTok Shop that like for them to have a 10K a month retainer with a creator group that they really like, it's no problem. Even if the ROI is not backing out every month, it's like there's creating these videos and creating this halo effect and keeping creators interested, generating new content. Because even if you do 1.0 ROI on like the tap link, like you're looking at like what the group brought in, but then that video, you know, drives so much upper funnel traffic that like your other creators are then converting off of it. That's like where I think a lot of brands need to be thinking. It's like, okay, even if it doesn't back out right away, but then I have videos that are out there that are generating top of funnel awareness, and then I have other creators that are kind of capitalizing off of it, or they're using that video as an example. All those things can really help. So that's what I would say. Like in the beginning, 20K a month, 50K a month, 60K a month, you can probably just do certain things like using the creators that have been successful for you from wherever you recruited them and putting them on a retainer and managing them and giving them angles. That's probably going to be a better use of your money and a better ROI than spending 10, 15 grand with the creator groups that are probably pretty busy. They don't have the resources and the time to be scripting angles and focusing 100% on your brand.
Yeah, and that kind of thing. And I think you made a great point there as well. And I think especially time recording this, it was kind of like one of the latest ones that kind of had like, obviously part of the creator group anyway, but the fact of like one video popped off really well and you saw other creators going down that same angle, right? And that kind of allowed it to escalate and make a lot more sales as well, right? So you don't necessarily need to get positive ROI from day one, but because these groups are trained and they know how to sell on TikTok Shop, all it takes is for one or two of these piece of content to do really well. Everyone else in that group, guess what? They're going to follow that same direction. And because if TikTok's already giving love to the one piece of content, then guess what? The likelihood it's going to probably do the same for the rest as well, right? And that's going to probably 10x your investment. It may be not be like month one, month two, but then maybe month three, four onwards, that's going to continue to grow. And then actually the great thing with TikTok Shop, you keep running GMV max, you keep getting more content. Again, it's continuing to scale from then onwards. So your main issue is hopefully just trying to keep products in stock.
Working with every time you launch a new SKU, you have them on that SKU so that you're not starting from 0 on a new SKU. I think that can be like a great way to keep the sales up. Because what we see with some brands is they have a really great moment and they scale up pretty high, But then staying there, it's a constant effort. You got to continue having creatives coming in, probably different angles, just trying new things constantly. So keeping at that level or even growing from 1 million a month can be tough. But if you're using 2 or 3 creator groups, you're using your in-house creators, you're constantly recruiting new creators, it makes it a lot easier. And some of the creator groups, they will work with you on flat fees. They will do more performance-based percentage GMV type things. Tap links make it a lot easier. It's just like they send you a link, you authorize to that link, you tell them how many samples they can allocate for themselves. Then TikTok will automatically disperse them the commission rate. Say your normal commission rate is 20%. You on that link, you're giving them 25%. They can then divvy that how they want. They can give, 21% to their creators, keep 4% and whatever they want to do. And I think TikTok is going to continue coming out with features that just like make it more automated to do these things. Now you can see like the rankings of tap groups, like in Seller Center, the tap links is just a lot more common. When we started, it was just like we were trying to calculate this manually with these groups. They weren't even on tap. So the system's just like constantly getting better to like, make these things easier.
Yeah, and you made a good point there. I remember like back in the day, you try and just calculate what's the percent, and then it's just all been ad hoc. And that's why I feel like, because again, like I mentioned, a lot of these groups weren't even tapped because no one, tap was always there, right? But no one really knew what it was. And again, I remember like, again, probably this time last year, you'd go on there for a seller and you click on it. And then from abstract, you see like a lot of Chinese terms of like, 'cause obviously some of these Chinese agencies obviously are in US as well. And you click on them, but then nothing would happen. And you're just like, okay, this tap work. What is it? Like, is it just like a button you click and hope for? And then kind of nothing happened. And then all of a sudden it started to develop a lot more. Like I say, you've got these Discord groups obviously now becoming tapped. And like I say, the good thing now you can see the ranking, which I think definitely helps as well. And obviously for any brand listening, obviously wanting to go into that, yes, the ranking's there, but keep in mind as well, the top ranked agencies on there, they're probably going to be getting bombarded with a lot of requests. And obviously keep in mind that they're probably not going to work with everyone as well. So with that being said, Zane, what would you kind of say to a brand who kind of, let's say they've got the budget straight away, they're launching on TikTok Shop, they don't know where to kind of go from a tap perspective in terms of what to do. What would you kind of recommend to them?
Yeah, I would say like it's so early now that it's still like such a relationship game as well, where it's like if you just like hit up everyone that you know that's doing well on TikTok Shop, you ask them creator agencies that they're working with that they recommend. Some of them won't be good. It's good to like kind of do it on a referral basis, and then it's also easier to have that conversation with that group. So that's kind of what I'd recommend is like grab 15 minutes, 30 minutes with everyone that you know that's doing well on Shop, see who's killing it right now, like who's doing a really good job in terms of creator group. Try to get like an intro and see if it makes sense with your budget because everything's like so new. It's like even if you look at the rankings, there might be like 1 or 2 brands that's like driving a ton of that GMV. There's some creator groups that just very recently started using tap links and things so like their GMV might be like understated. Like you said, some of the bigger ones are just like so busy with the business that they already have that they might not reply to you. Some of them are using like the links or like their own brands, and then it's like it's almost like double dipping where it's like they have their brand that they're running through a tap link, and then it seems like they're doing a ton of revenue. So there's all it's all a little bit messy, but I think what you can't beat is just like that personal recommendations from someone that you trust. It's like, hey, these creator groups are good. These ones are overpriced. These ones didn't really deliver. These ones took forever. I think that's probably the most powerful way to like kind of sort through all the options.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there, sorry, in terms of like you say, speaking with people who are doing well with on TikTok Shop, because again, like I say, there's so many moving parts. There's no one size fits all, right? And everyone I speak to, and obviously you're probably the same in terms of most people aren't open book, whether it's brands, whether it's agencies, whether it's create open book, everyone's willing to help one another, right? Because everyone's just trying to get the most out of this. Speaking with people who are doing well, whether you know them or you just hit someone up, they're open to share what's worked for them in general, because it is still a platform that is continuing to develop. And especially like if you are just launching on the platform, the first 90 days, it can be bleak. And I tell to all brands transparently, obviously some brands can do really well to begin with, but sometimes it can be a slog and they feel like nothing's working or nothing's ever going to work right. But you just got to grit your teeth and just kind of know it's going to happen. But like I say, if you do speak to other brand owners who have gone through that, then again, it kind of fills you with some confidence as well, right? Because again, like if someone's done it already, they can kind of walk you through that, which again, I feel like that's always makes the biggest difference as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely seeing a lot of brands hitting it in that 3rd month. So it's just a lot of faith up until that point, but it helps, like you said, when they're talking to other brands and they're basically we're in the same boat where it's like, oh, 1st month was really slow. Like 2nd month, maybe we hit like break even. 3rd month is when it seemed like it was really coming together. And I think it's just like for the space too, like there's so many new agencies. It's such a new space that like if you ask someone that has exposure to a lot of different agencies and brands, like you're talking to like say you have a category manager assigned on TikTok, like ask them like, hey, some of your brands that are working with agencies, what's the agency that you would recommend? Because they're seeing the data, the back end, they're seeing who does good, who maybe doesn't. Same thing with brands. If you're seeing brands killing it, which creator groups did a good job for you, which didn't. That can be pretty powerful. Because otherwise, I feel like there's so much noise and there's so many different agencies, creator groups on LinkedIn, on Twitter, trying to get business and act like they're the best. I think it really makes sense to do some of the kind of personal vetting.
Yeah, I think personally it's the best way for it because yes, there are always going to be new people trying to do this, which again, fair play, like I say, but I feel like you want to make sure that if you're going to be investing X amount of your money, time, and obviously putting like a lot of effort into this, you want to kind of do it as right as possible from the start because, like I say, it can be an expensive mistake. I've seen it numerous times because I think as well now we're kind of getting to that stage where we're finding brands churn from other agencies or not figuring it out. And then you see what's been done and you're like, okay, this has kind of been costly in terms of what you've done already because like you've done X, Y, Z. And that's unfortunate because again, like I say, it does give the good guys who are doing this well kind of a bad rep slash bad name. But again, I guess that's just kind of the agency world we kind of live in, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of instances where we've like talked to brands and they've been super hesitant because they worked with one, sometimes even two agencies that like they got onboarded with and they didn't bring in like even a single creator. So that it makes everyone's job a lot tougher. But anytime you have a new industry, whether it's like e-commerce, crypto, anything where it's just like very new, there's going to be a lot of like people coming in and just trying to make a quick buck off the hype. But then also, I think once you've been around for a while, it's like you built that reputation. Things get a lot easier for you if you're like a good agency because like there's just the competition is sometimes not as serious as like some of the more entrenched industries.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? And I feel like now as well, because more brands, like say, have already been like through the kind of like period of working with agents and stuff, you can kind of see what's happened in the account as well. Whereas previously, when brands were starting, there's nothing in the account as well. So it's very interesting to see what other people are doing on the accounts, but maybe that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, that sounds like a juicy combo, man.
Yeah, it could be that. But yeah, Zane, obviously, as always, it's been good. We're coming up to like the 40-minute mark. So any final remarks in terms of like affiliate tap? What's kind of your final thoughts? And I know it's going to February as well. Like what's kind of what you got on the horizon for the next month?
Yeah, I think like we're coming out of that kind of slow period in e-com. It's always like Q1 is like a little bit of a hangover effect from Q4. We're going to start coming into a time when it's like a little bit less slow. I think you're going to see a lot of brands that are going to start pushing here soon. So I think just like looking forward this year, there's not anything that's really rivaling TikTok Shop in terms of like a growth channel. Like there was for AppLovin a little bit, but I think that's kind of lost the spotlight a bit where some brands aren't seeing it being incremental. So, like, based on all the avenues, it seems like TikTok Shop is like the one that's like least explored for brands. It looks like it's going to be around for a while. So, I think it's a good time to be gathering data and trying to understand the platform and the channel a little bit better because every year it gets close to Q4. And then that's when every brand is like, oh, it's time for me to launch TikTok Shop. And it doesn't really work that way. It's not like Meta where you can be doubling budgets day over day if a creative is working. So start gathering that information now, start figuring out which partners people are recommending. And before you know it, it'll be Q2. And I think we'll start seeing a lot of pickup.
Yeah, the people who are thinking smart should start now, is my opinion, because getting that ramp up, getting that scalability and being able to budget into it when it comes to Q4, you need to be starting now because by the time you blink, January's been the longest month in history. February's a short month, and March we're into Q2. So if you're not thinking for the platform, then honestly, I don't think brands should be launching in Q4 for TikTok Shop because the competition's too much. You're trying to scale up, affiliates are busy and stuff like that. So again, we'll probably have more discussions on this later on into the year, but like definitely if you want to plan for the whole 2025, then yeah, now is the perfect time to get the ball rolling.
100%.
Amazing. Zane, absolute pleasure as always. Can everyone find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think the platform that I'm most active on is Twitter, and then I think it says it by my name, like the tag, not Zen again, so NOTZAINAGAIN, and then you can find me on LinkedIn, ZAIN space ALI.
Amazing, Zane. So yeah, we'll be back again for another episode next week. We'll continue as well. The pod is staying live because obviously TikTok is still going. So yeah, happy days from that as well. So we're going to bring you another fresh episode next week. But as always, everyone, thanks for listening and look forward to speaking to you all very soon.